S01E99. End of Season 1, preview for Season 2. In case you somehow got 15 episodes into this series and still have no real clue what you're listening to right now, or if your podcast app did that annoying thing where it starts you at the newest episode and this is that episode, then welcome to Enclair, an archive of forensic linguistics, literary detection, and language mysteries. You can find case notes about this episode at the blog. And if you get a moment, leave us a rating wherever you get your podcasts from. We are going on holiday for a bit. This is a vacation before Season 2 begins. And on that note, you might ask, well, what sort of cases will Season 2 bring? Well, who knows? There could be some murders, a plethora of hilariously bad apologies, some wildly ridiculous censorship, dictators using linguistics to tighten their stranglehold on power, queens of code, undeciphered manuscripts that seem to have driven people mad, mysterious online cats, and I will be amazed if I manage to get away without doing something, somewhere, on current political events. In case this worried you, I mean, it didn't, probably, but you never know. In case it worried you, there is far more today in the future episode spreadsheet than there was when I first started it. It opened with about 50 cases, and rather than shrinking with each episode, it has expanded to over 200. I could really do with half a dozen clones right about now. Anyway, I realise that life without Enclair will be very hard. So what can you do in the meantime till this podcast returns to the airwaves? I have a short list of recommendations. Let's begin with other podcasts. Why not try Subtitle? It's a language journalism podcast and it introduces listeners to people who have a linguistic story to tell. Future episodes include climbing inside the brain of a polyglot, the best ways to learn a second language, and the story of a book so imperiled it went underground for years. But there are other excellent podcasts too. There's Lingthusiasm, The Illusionist, A Way with Words, Lexicon Valley, Word of Mouth, The Vocal Fries, The History of English podcast, Talk the Talk, and a bunch more besides. I mean, just do an internet search for linguistics podcasts, you will have pods for days. But maybe you want some fiction in your life. Well, try Ella Minnow P by Mark Dunn, or The Last Samurai by Helen DeWitt, and of course you simply cannot go wrong with The Lord of the Rings. But get a copy with all the appendices if you can. Fancy something a little less labour-intensive? Just want to binge some films? Then there's The Terminal from 2004, Lost in Translation from 2003, and of course, Arrival from 2016. In the meantime, any Enclair episode would not be complete without proper acknowledgements, and this time I want to name as many as possible of the people who helped make this first season the incredible success that it has been. 3 different people have peer-reviewed the early episodes for me and sent exhaustive, thoughtful, brilliant feedback. Tim Grant and Rebecca and Piotr Jagodziński. Your input at the foundational stages has been absolutely essential and I cannot thank you enough. Rebecca gets a second shout-out for being the engine that powered the research and fact-checking behind Enclair from episode 5 onwards. If you need a researcher, keep your damn hands off. She's mine and she's awesome. So go get your own podcast episode, research genius. A huge thank you to the ESRC who funded the Enigma 3-part miniseries as part of the Festival of Social Science. Another huge thank you to Jonathan Culpepper and Eleanor Semino for being independent external reviewers, moral support, and extremely useful sources of help and advice for practical obstacles. A thank you to Claire Nance for patiently taking my casual soiree into the world of phonetics in the Yorkshire Ripper miniseries. A thank you to those listeners, journalists, audio engineers, lawyers, politicians, civil servants, and more who variously got in touch with tips, technical suggestions, alerts for breaking stories, answers to legal questions, and all sorts of useful information. You all gave your time willingly and freely, and I can only hope the podcast itself is some repayment for your efforts. Penultimately, thank you to my department and to my university. Both generally sit back and watch me do stuff and probably wonder, what even are you doing? This weird new tech stuff is weird. But not only do they not get in my way, they have unhesitatingly and consistently provided all kinds of support, from advice and tech to blog platforms and publicity shoutouts. There is a reason my department is rated as one of the highest in the world, and it's largely because of stuff like this. And the very last thanks of all go to you, you wonderful listener. All of you wonderful listeners. Keep podding away. This is the final episode of Season 1, and it has been an absolute blast. Here is to an even better Season 2. Cheerio.